The Clone Wars was filled with many brutal and oftentimes poorly thought out battles, needlessly ending to the deaths of many millions of beings. However, of all the battles of the Clone Wars, the Battle of Geonosis is quite possibly the worst. Although it eventually led to a Republic victory, it came at an immense cost, both for the Jedi and the clones who served under them. So why was this now infamous battle so deadly? In this video, we will discuss all the reasons why it was such a dramatic failure for the Republic. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe with the notification bell on. And if you enjoy my videos here, then consider checking out my history channel. I'll leave a link to that down below. First, we must discuss the brutal first stage of the battle, which took place within the Geonosis Petranaki arena. As we saw in the Attack of the Clones, Mace Windu led a strike team of over 215 Jedi into the arena. This was one of the largest forces of Jedi in galactic history. However, as Windu stated earlier on in the film, the Jedi were keepers of the peace, not soldiers. When the separatists unveiled their army of battle droids, the Jedi were simply outnumbered. Out of the 215 Jedi that arrived on Geonosis, only 30 would live to tell the tale. That's just under an 86% casualty rate. So why did the first part of the battle end so badly? The Jedi had spent almost 25,000 years as the primary defenders of the galaxy, so you would imagine they would be pretty well equipped to deal with this kind of mission. However, this was not the case after the 1,000 years of relative peace that preceded the Clone Wars. After many thousands of years of war during the Old Republic era, the Republic had decided to lay down their arms and disband their massive military in the fear that it would one day fall into the wrong hands. Known as the Ruusan Reformations, these put the majority of the military hardware into the hands of individual planets or systems. The Jedi were also greatly demilitarized and were instead moved over to a peacekeeping role. This demilitarization was reflected in the Jedi's training and equipment, but we will discuss this later on in the video. Of course, in the Republic Golden Age that followed the Ruusan Reformations, there was some violence, but these had largely been small skirmishes and clashes with minor systems. In almost every case, these battles did not pose an existential threat to the Republic and were quite easily thwarted by the Jedi and the various planetary militias. By the time of the Skywalker saga, this had all changed. Led by a former Jedi, Count Dooku, the Confederacy of Independent Systems were a major threat to the Republic. They had attempted to assassinate a democratically elected senator on Coruscant, were building up a massive army of battle droids, and were attempting to execute 2 Jedi and a senator in the Geonosis arena. The Jedi had to move swiftly if they were to put an end to this situation, and therefore struck quickly, as they had done countless times during the Republic Golden Age. However, the Jedi's arrogance blinded them to the fact that this was not just a minor skirmish, and it would take far more than a few hundred Jedi. This is made even more absurd by the fact that the Jedi were well aware of the clones' existence. All they had to do was wait just a little longer, and they would have had the support of an entire army. Mace Windu, though, was very impulsive, and in many ways exemplified the worst parts of the Jedi Order. Instead of waiting for backup, he rushed in to try to save the day, a mistake that cost the lives of nearly 200 fellow Jedi. It is no coincidence that Windu would later go on to make another rushed and impulsive decision, which again would cost the lives of his fellow Jedi and ultimately his own. It is likely that the Jedi believed that through a rapid strike they could overwhelm the Geonosian forces, arrest Dooku and leave before droid reinforcements arrived. They may have even believed that the sight of so many Jedi would have immediately led to the separatist surrender. Many of the Jedi were so confident that their mission would go smoothly, they even brought their Padawans along with them. It is unlikely they would have done this if they'd have known the events would unfold as they did. During this rushed response, Windu alone confronted Dooku. Dooku was arguably a better fighter than Mace, and he also had the backup of the most successful bounty hunter in the galaxy, Jango Fett. If Mace had confronted Dooku with just a small portion of the Jedi he brought to the arena, the whole battle could have gone down very differently. The separatist leadership could have been quickly captured and the executions put to an end. Instead, Windu spread the Jedi thinly around the perimeter of the arena, allowing Dooku and the separatist leaders to escape. However, it wasn't just the poor short-term planning by the Jedi leadership that led to the first part of the battle being such a bloodbath. The Jedi more generally were also inexperienced and grossly underprepared for such a major battle. Most Jedi had not been involved in an all-out war, and some had barely left the Jedi Temple. What's more, their training often made them ill-equipped to deal with battles involving thousands of battle droids. Before the Clone Wars, and in large part due to the aforementioned Rusam reformations, many Jedi had focused on lightsaber forms that wouldn't help much against entire armies of battle droids. Great examples of this were Form 1, Form 2, and Form 6. Although under different circumstances, these lightsaber forms were very effective. They could just not stand up against the rapid fire of multiple B2 battle droids. Form 6 and Form 1 were quite popular before the Clone Wars, but both were often too unfocused and unspecialized to defend against multiple incoming blaster shots. Form 2, while not as popular with the Jedi for different reasons, which we will explore in a future video, was also not very effective against multiple opponents. The worst performing lightsaber form during this battle was likely Form 6, largely due to the fact it was unspecialized and usually used by more diplomatic Jedi. Pretty much all of the Form 6 practitioners present on Geonosis perished that day. This is one of the reasons why many Jedi opted for more defensive forms as the Clone Wars progressed, and why Jedi such as Obi-Wan were regarded so highly during this time. Another example of how unprepared they were was their lack of armor. The Jedi donned their robes as not to impede their acrobatic fighting style. This worked well when they were simply peacekeepers. In fact, this also worked well during the Sith Wars of the Old Republic, as it allowed them to outmaneuver their more heavily armoured Sith opponents. However, this is less effective against an entire army of battle droids, especially when there is almost no cover or places to hide. A few Jedi did opt to wear armour later on in the Clone Wars, but they were few and far between, undoubtedly leading to the deaths of many Jedi through an inability to adapt to their new roles as soldiers. However, the most important reason why the early stages of the Battle of Geonosis was such a failure was because they were playing right into Count Dooku's hands. This should have been anticipated by the Jedi, but again, they were blinded by 1,000 years of dominance and refused to see that Dooku, a former Jedi, could cause so much harm. The Jedi were pretty much surrounded from the onset. There were no escape routes, no air cover, and as far as the Jedi present at the battle were concerned, no backup. Dooku was able to use powerful Geonosian cannons to pummel the surrounding Jedi, preventing them from deflecting or blocking the CIS attacks. He then simultaneously utilized both the droid and Geonosian army to quickly overwhelm the Jedi. He also used his troops in quite a smart way, suggesting that this was indeed a trap. He first deployed the B-1 battle droids, using them as cannon fodder to break up the Jedi and soften them up. He then brought forth more powerful B2 battle droids and droidicars, the nail in the coffin that eventually led to the Jedi's defeat in this battle. Of course, the remaining Jedi were saved at the last minute by the newly acquired clone army. However, if anything, the battle just got worse for the Republic from there on in, again due to the massive mistakes of the Jedi commanders. In fact, the next phase of the battle was so bad that quite a few of the surviving clones actually deserted, and many others were left with deep resentment for the Jedi. 192,000 clone troopers fought in this battle, and many would die due to the Jedi's incompetence. The Jedi's first major error was to focus on an all-out ground assault. Approximately 20 Acclamator-class capital ships were used during the Battle of Geonosis. However, instead of bombarding the fleeing droid transport ships from space, the Jedi deployed most of them onto the battlefield. This prevented them from using much of their heavier firepower, as it would risk killing many of the Republic's own troops. This is especially stupid when we consider that Geonosis had no planetary shield, a rarity for such an important planet. This missed opportunity may have been mitigated if the ground assault had been properly thought out. This was not the case, and the clones were pretty much used like battle droids. The clones had been trained in the art of urban and guerrilla warfare. Instead, the Jedi placed them in direct opposition to the droid army with no cover. It also led to multiple instances of friendly fire. At least one clone on the front lines was hit by an AT-TE cannon, and I believe it is highly likely that many others were gunned down from behind by their own brother's blaster fire. Similarly, the Jedi ordered for the Trade Federation ships to be shot down, while failing to withdraw the troops to a safe distance. This engulfed the clones in a cloud of dust, undoubtedly leading to more friendly fire and putting them at even more of a disadvantage to the numerically superior droid army. The clones were only superior to the battle droids due to their ability to think creatively. Deploying so many clones en masse in such a way made them pretty much as effective, if not less effective, than the numerically superior battle droids. A particularly egregious example of this was the Jedi's use of the clone commandos. The 10,000 clone commandos had been specifically trained for urban combat, reconnaissance, and other specialized missions. However, the Jedi deployed every single one of them onto a desert plain, directly in the firing line of the droid army. Almost half of the total number of clone commandos would be wiped out that day, leading many of the survivors to question the Jedi's roles as military leaders. And can you blame them? The Jedi were peacekeepers, bound by a strict code of honor, and hadn't fought a major battle in over a millennia. On the other hand, the clones were literally bred for combat, and had been trained in the art of war since their birth. Placing the entire clone army in the hands of a few monks who were unfamiliar with the clones' equipment, training, and military tactics is completely insane. In many cases, the Jedi led their clones as though they were leading an army of other Jedi. In reality, the clones simply couldn't keep up with their Jedi commanders, and due to their lack of force powers and lightsabers, just led to them being sitting ducks for the separatists to quickly mow down. Eventually, the Republic was able to claim some sort of victory. However, it was almost certainly a strategic loss. While the CIS lost hundreds of thousands of battle droids that day, they were able to get off-world with the majority of their forces, the Death Star plans, and all of the separatist leadership. The Republic lost hundreds of Jedi and likely tens of thousands of their best troops. And remember, the droid army outnumbered the clones at a bare minimum of 100 to 1, and could be produced at a much faster rate. The loss of so many Jedi and clones would take far longer to replace than a few 100,000 battle droids. The clones were left highly demoralized by the first Battle of Geonosis, and if it wasn't for their unnatural loyalty, many others probably would have deserted. 151st clone later stated that none of the simulations or training could have prepared him for the true horrors of war. Unfortunately, most Jedi did not learn from their mistakes at the first Battle of Geonosis. The second Battle of Geonosis saw similar, albeit slightly better tactics being used by the Jedi, again leading to heavy losses. Clone resentment for the Jedi only grew throughout the Clone Wars, as it became clear that many of their leaders did not view them as people with feelings and lives, but as simple cannon fodder for their inept and poorly thought out plans. This resulted in many clones gladly gunning down their Jedi commanders and embracing the newly formed Galactic Empire. This was not the first time that the Jedi's morality has been called into question. The Jedi were instrumental in leading a genocidal assault on Mandalore that turned the once fertile world into a barren wasteland, which you can find out about in this video.